Welcome to IVF This, episode 200, 5 years of IVF This.
Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing so well today. We are at episode 200. I can't actually believe I'm saying that out loud, but 5 and some change years of IVF This. IVF This, the coaching practice, IVF This, the podcast, IVF This, like it's everything. Now, every time we hit one of these really big milestones, right, 50, 100, and 150, it's never felt right to do like a highlight reel or a recap of old episodes. That's never really been what this space is about. So today isn't a celebration in like the traditional sense. I mean, it is a celebration because we got to 200 episodes and that's crazy insane. But it's more of a reflection, kind of Emily taking stock of what IVF This has morphed into, has changed and evolved into. First order of business, though, 3 incredible shout outs. First and foremost, the dude who has been my ride or die. He's been with me every single one of these 200 episodes, and that is Anthony, my podcast producer. This man has the patience of Job when it comes to me, which I think is actually an essential character trait I need in all hiring practices. But he is consistent, he's competent, he is lovely, he is kind. He does incredible work, and he really truly does believe not just in like the power of podcasting and things like that. He truly does believe in IVF This. When we talk, he'll talk about how he even like engages, I think it was a friend of his, maybe this was a few years ago, who was about to go through IVF, and he was telling her about me and the podcast. And I think at one point he said, she asked, well, how the hell do you know so much about IVF? But that's Anthony. Anthony is the things that he works on. And I just feel so incredibly blessed that I have gotten, number one, that I found him, because it was kind of a circuitous path to finding him, but also that he has stuck by me all of these years. So Anthony, thank you. You are wonderful. Also, Amber, she is a graphic designer that I met actually through my local church. She designed all of my website, my brand, the colors, the patterns, the fonts, all of it. She does all that. She designs all of the podcast art. So when you're scrolling through your Google or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, all the little clip arts with the title and things, she designs all of those. She's incredibly talented. And she has also been with me since the beginning. Not quite as closely linked as Anthony and I, but still just an irreplaceable part of this team. And last, but certainly not least, Ella, who is my virtual assistant all the way in the UK, also has the patience of Job with me, but is such a light for me. There are a lot of things that I've talked about doing for a long time and things that we're starting to do. And a lot of that is Ella kind of patiently waiting for me to get to where I need to be to bring my messaging more to the masses and things like that. And Ella has just been this really beautiful, steady presence for 3 or 4 years. We were trying to remember on the last call. And I couldn't do it without these 3 people. I couldn't do it without my husband. I couldn't do it without, Dr. Skillern and the team at For Fertility, which is she's my REI. She will be my REI until I'm dead and gone. But 5 years of this wasn't just Emily. It wasn't just me talking into a microphone. There had been so many people, both directly and indirectly involved in what you guys get to consume and what you guys get to hear, and hopefully what helps. So I just wanted to do shout out. I love all of you, and thank you all from the depths of my soul for everything that you have done to make IVF This what it is and keeping IVF This what it is. I couldn't do it without you. So back to the reflection. I want to kind of name what this show, what this podcast has kind of quietly become for me. And what I think it's kind of quietly become in the infertility and IVF space. So when I started the IVF This podcast in November of 2020, right, there wasn't much going on in November of 2020, right? I'm just kidding. I thought I was creating a podcast about infertility, about IVF, right? About the logistics, the emotional side, and the coping tools. And yes, it is those things too. Like it certainly has all of those things and has had all of those things. But 5 years in, as I was reflecting on this episode and kind of the more personal nature of these milestone episodes, I can see how this show has always been something deeper. It's been about grief, not just the obvious kind, the losses that we can name, but the quieter, ongoing grief that comes with the waiting, with the uncertainty, with the changed identities and unmet expectations. And lately I was thinking back on this parable. You'll have to stay with me. I've got like 3 parts, very personal, that I want to share. And the first part is this parable. And I think it accurately kind of captures what's been sitting on my heart, certainly for the last 3 to 4 years. And it starts out with this woman walking down the sidewalk and she falls into a hole. The walls are too steep and she can't climb out. And then a priest walks by and she calls up, "Hello, Father, I've fallen in this hole. Can you help me?" The priest writes a prayer on a piece of paper, rips it off, throws it down in the hole with her. And he keeps walking. And then a doctor walks by and she says, "Doctor, I've fallen in this hole. I can't get out. Can you please help me?" The doctor takes out his prescription pad, writes a prescription, tears it off, throws it back down in the hole, and moves on. Finally, a friend walks by. And our woman says, "Hey, I've fallen in this hole and I can't get out. Can you help me?" And the friend jumps into the hole with her. And our woman says, like, "What are you, nuts? Now neither of us can get out. We're both stuck down here." And the friend says, "I know, but I've been here and I know the way out." And that story has been living in my body probably since the inception of IVF This. Because the priest and the doctor aren't bad. They offer something meaningful, but they never really enter the hole. And grief, especially infertility grief, it doesn't need to be fixed. It can't be fixed. What it needs is a witness. What it needs is company. Grief reshaped me. Not all at once, not dramatically, and not in any ways that I could see it while it was happening. Grief made me a more authentic person. It stripped me down to the studs. For a long time, grief was leading me without even me realizing it, right? It led my moods. It led my relationship with myself, most of all, and it quietly shaped a lot of my other relationships too. In grief, it felt like the worst thing I believed about myself was suddenly true. That I wasn't enough, that I wasn't strong, that I wasn't worthy, that pain didn't even have a proper name, so it must be a me problem, right? I'm sure that some of y'all can relate. Grief marked me in excruciating ways and in beautiful ones. It slowed me down, which is not an easy feat. And I want to say this clearly because none of this alchemy happened overnight. This was years of work, years of intentional work. Sometimes I knew what I was doing. Sometimes I didn't know the what or the why at all, but the work was always there. And grief took away a lot of my urgency to make things make sense quickly. It took away my need to like tidy pain up or rush towards making it mean something. And in the slowing down that grief required of me, something else began to kind of take shape. Grief gave me a purpose. I always knew I was meant to like live a life of service. I felt like that my entire life. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but grief brought that truth for me into light. It gave me the capacity to love more deeply, to bear witness to other people's pain without trying to fix it, and to understand what real kindness, not niceness, what kindness is towards others and, most importantly, to myself. Grief shaped how I create. It shapes how I write, how I speak. It helped me give you a language for things that once maybe felt unspeakable, language that I didn't have for so long, a way of understanding myself, a way of understanding other people's pain, and a way of holding space for both of those things to exist at the same time. Because you can only write about something like grief after you've lived with it. And you know, it's funny, here's a random Emily fact. I took Latin in college as my foreign language, because what 18-year-old doesn't want to learn a dead language? You know what I mean? This is probably why 18-year-olds maybe shouldn't be in charge of their college schedule, but here we are. But it was actually the first place where I heard the phrase amor fati, which is love your fate. It's a principle from Stoicism. It's the idea that everything that happens to you, the good, the bad, isn't random or meaningless, but part of what shapes you into who you are supposed to become. Now, that idea isn't for everyone, and I can respect that, right? It very much works for me. As everything with this is cafeteria style. You take what works for you, you leave what doesn't. If that doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. But this idea of amor fati has followed me ever since. Sometimes like loud in the foreground of my life, and sometimes most often really quietly in the background, just kind of just waiting. And it wasn't until I stopped merely tolerating that idea and I allowed myself to truly embrace what loving my fate means without resistance that it really, really took root. Would I wake up and choose the character development that infertility and IVF allowed for me? No, probably not. I think I had more than enough character to go around before all those things. But I wouldn't be who I am without it. And for that, and I know it sounds strange maybe if you're not there yet, and that's okay, I am immensely and eternally grateful for my grief. So much so that I now actually have amor fati tattooed on my arm because I embraced it so much. Okay, and I said that there were three things. So the first one was our little parable about a woman walking on the sidewalk. The second one was amor fati, and this is the third one. This was the one that really spoke to me as I was sitting down and reflecting and writing this episode. And that is Sherpas. You've never heard the phrase, that's totally fine, or the word or the name, that's totally fine. But they come from the Himalayan region, and they're guides who help climbers navigate some of the most difficult, challenging, and dangerous mountain terrains in the world. They walk alongside others, carrying knowledge of the path, the conditions, and the risks. Not to guarantee success, but to help people move through the terrain that they couldn't navigate alone. People whose lives have been shaped by the land itself, by altitude, by weather that can quickly turn, by terrain that doesn't forgive ignorance or bravado. And what's always struck me about Sherpas is this: they don't conquer the mountain. They don't pretend the climb is easy. They don't promise safe passage no matter what. What they offer is something very quiet. They know the terrain. They know when the air thins. They know where people tend to lose their footing. They know when it's safer to rest or when to push. They know that turning back isn't a failure. Sometimes it is deeply held wisdom. And most importantly, and the thing that I keep kind of in my peripheral at all times, is that they don't walk ahead. They don't walk ahead shouting instructions from a distance. They walk with. They've been shaped by the landscape. Their bodies know it. Their nervous systems know it. And because of that, they can say, honestly, I know this part. I've been here before. I know how disorienting this can feel. That's how I think about grief now. Okay, not something to overcome, not something to be fixed or outgrown, but by a landscape, one that changes you the longer you live in it. And over time, without realizing it, I stopped trying to lead people out of their grief. And I learned to stay with them in it instead, to help them orient themselves, to help them remember who they are, to help them trust their footing again, slowly, imperfectly, and in their own time. Because when you're in grief, what you need most isn't someone telling you where you should be by now. You need someone who understands the terrain enough to say, this part is hard, this part makes sense, you're not lost, you're just here. Most people don't actually need someone to tell them what to do. They need someone to say, your feelings make sense. This really is as hard as you think it is. You're not imagining it. You are enough. You are doing enough. And it won't always feel this way. And maybe, most importantly, what you're doing takes courage. To keep loving something deeply when heartbreak is part of the story. So this part is for you, my beautiful friends. None of this is your fault. There was no way you could have prepared yourself for this journey. There is no way you could have predicted what it would ask of you emotionally, physically, relationally, financially. There was no choice you made or didn't make, no single decision, no thing you did or failed to do that caused you to be here. This journey is messy. It's chaotic, it's painful, it's isolating, it's disorienting, it's demoralizing. It's all of those things and more. But you know what it's not? And what it's never been? Your fault. You have always been enough. You have always been worthy. Not because of how well you handle things, not because of your optimism or your resilience or your strength, just because you are you. Even on the days you feel hollow, even on the days you don't recognize yourself, and I've had plenty of those, even on the days you wonder if this has changed you too much, nothing about this story or any other journeys gets to write or rewrite your worth. And however this story continues, however it unfolds, you are allowed and encouraged to meet yourself with kindness, especially in the parts with the terrain that you didn't choose and don't yet know how to navigate. Thank you, deeply thank you for walking these 5 years with me. And I'm really, really glad you're here. And I'll talk to you soon. Happy 200 episodes. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.